Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. If you ever go to pull the mower cord, and then after you pull it, you hear a clatter noise after the engine should have stopped, or if you're mowing, and then when you let go of it, and if you hear a clattering noise after it's done, you need to stop and get under the mower right away, because this is probably the most dangerous problem you're going to run into on a lawnmower. I just bought this mower a couple of days ago, and yesterday when I pulled the cord, I felt the cord kick back on me really hard. And I said to myself, oh, I know what that is. And then after it kicked back, I could hear something rattling underneath it for a couple of seconds afterwards. So let's have a look at it and see what happened. And all the people always say, which way should you tilt a lawnmower, left or right? And in reality, this is the best way to tilt a lawnmower. Put the handle all the way down to the ground. Now, as soon as I looked under this, I knew what the problem was, because I saw this right here, and I realized that the blade adapter had broken. And with the blade adapter broken, what will happen is the blade will try to spin free, and it can shake itself off. Now, the normal motion of starting it should tighten this bolt, but there's no promises there, and it's a pretty long bolt. But you still don't want to, risk hurting your feet or your leg on a loose blade. So after I saw it, I went and spent the $14 on a new blade adapter. And it's a pretty easy replacement. There's not much to it. Just take the blade off, and you can see this one, the pins were sheared. That means that somebody had this blade and didn't tighten it. If you don't tighten a blade, it can knock these little pins straight off. But we've got its new replacement, and that should take care of the problem. Interesting enough, a lot of mowers won't even start with the blade loose. It counts on the rotational force of the blade to carry the motor over to the next stroke. There we go. Let's tighten her up. Okay, she's set on 3. And that's not going anywhere. So this mower, that could have been the only problem with it, because it will never start with that blade spinning free. And when I first looked at it, the first time I pulled it, it rattled around a little bit like this was loose. And this bolt was out about that far. So let's put her on the ground, take her outside, and see if she'll start. We didn't get a whole lot out of this motor when we tried to start it. So we're going to go ahead and pull the carburetor off and give her a quick head to toe, and then give it another run. Now, when I put starter fluid in, she did kick and sputter a little bit. She made an attempt to start, but we really didn't get what we were hoping for. Let's get our magnet going for our parts. I believe that's a 3/8. There's a 5/16 to take the first 2 off. Now let's use the 3/8 to finish the job. That came off pretty easy. Now cleaning one of these carburetors up is pretty easy peasy, so let's get this one over to the bench and get her clean. There we go. And take lots of pictures when you do this, because should this spring come loose, then it's not going to be super obvious how it went together. Okay, everything seems to be moving well. So we're going to go ahead and pull the bowl, and we'll do the jets real quick, and then we'll take a look at the primer, which is part of the air cleaner on this one. I went ahead and cleaned her up a little bit before we took her apart. No reason to make everything dirty around the bench and all. Now let's see what we've got. Now, I don't think this carburetor necessarily is in bad shape, but I do think she needs cleaned up a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and run it through the ultrasonic, get all the dirt out of it and everything, and then we're going to come back to it and check the primer. Now that everything's nice and clean, let's get her back together. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and run a wire through the jets. And I did see something come poking out of that. I really didn't expect it. I thought the jets were in good shape on this one. In any case, they are now. So now we'll go ahead and put the float and the needle back in. Get the pin back in place. And in this case, if you've got a steel needle that sits on a little rubber seat, if you've got any leaks where you see gases getting into the oil, then you want to check that rubber seat. In this case, we didn't have any leaks or anything. It just simply didn't want to run. There we go. Nice and snug, but don't be a superhero. Just a little bit of torque on this one. The little gasket underneath this is what keeps the gas in. Let's put it back on the mower and see what we've got. Okay, back gasket looks really good on this, nice and sturdy. So we're going to leave that alone. First thing we'll do is get you hooked here. Fuel line appears to be in good shape, so we're not going to replace that. We'll go ahead and put our clamp on. Beautiful. Now I usually take the clip off of this and turn the gas on right now because it won't hurt anything to do it. And if you've got any fuel leaks, you'll see them. Now we're going to start get our bolts started. That's a beautiful thing. Snug them down and go. If you're ever working on one of these that has the primer on it, make sure that this gasket is good. When I pulled this off, there was no gasket here at all, but this is counting on pushing air through the carburetor to get the prime, and it's pushing it through this little bitty hole, so it just won't work without the little gasket. So double check it and make sure there's no cracks or no problems with the gasket at all before you do it. So let's get this back on, and we'll run her outside and see how she runs. Notice we do that nice and gentle, that way we don't have to worry about stripping it accidentally. We don't want to make new threads while we're doing this. There we go. Make sure she's nice and snug. As it sits now, this thing should run pretty good. So let's take her out and give her a run. Okay, let's prime her and see if she doesn't start. I'm expecting good things. I don't always count on first pull with a primer, but you never know. So if you've got one of these that you hear a rattle noise after you shut it off, check the blade first. If it's loose, that little adapter, it's pretty cheap. It's $10 or $12, and you can usually reuse the blade. And on a side note, that carburetor gasket, the one between the air filter and the carburetor, if you've got the primer pump, the little finger pump on it, that gasket is imperative. The primer won't work without a good gasket in there. We went ahead and put a new one in on this one, and it made all the difference in the world. Started right up. So, all you new people out there, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, and if you made it this far, you might as well. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.